Hello everybody, I'm former WWE superstar Eugene, and today I'm going to talk about the third time I got fired by the WWE, and then I'm going to take you behind the scenes, and I'm going to reveal exactly what happened when I exposed Mark Carrano's attempted sexual assault to the WWE HR. And if you don't recall, the whole issue with Carrano was that, to put it bluntly, he attempted sexual assault on my wife. Well, there we were, WrestleMania 30 in the green room, my wife and I, ex-wife. Walked in, Carrano and her were face to face, and she's a lovely person, but she can be stern. She has a look, and she just stared him down, and she was angry. I was angry. I was the newest coach, my first WrestleMania as a coach, and I'm boiling, steaming, seeing Carrano there, knowing what he did. My wife's upset, and I wanted to give him a knuckle sandwich right there in the green room, right in front of Bruno Sammartino, who was there. But alas, I wanted to keep a job. Didn't want to get fired. Didn't want to get arrested in New Orleans for beating up some sloppy stooge. So I really didn't say much. I just kind of stood by. And I remember Stephanie and Mark came face to face, and Mark was obviously uncomfortable, noticeably uncomfortable. He's a little squirmy stooge anyway, so he's like squishing around. Ooh, that night in Louisville, that was a crazy night. And she looks at him with those piercing eyes and she goes, "What are you talking about, Mark?" And he just scurried off, scampered away into the darkness, acting like he had something to do. Because he knew if he would have kept talking and said something, me trying to hold my anger and my feelings down might have just popped off. He might have got a John Stossel ear slap, maybe two. I think that's what he deserves, at least. That wasn't the time and place, and I knew that. But if you stay tuned to the end of this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how I exposed Mark Carrano to the head office, to the HR, and to everybody that mattered. So we left New Orleans, we went back to Orlando. I continued my time as a coach, which I absolutely loved. Until the day I wake up to go to work. My class was at 8 a.m., so I'm up early, getting myself together, taking a shower, you know the deal. When I receive a text. Actually, I received it in the middle of the night, but I just opened my phone early in the morning, and it's from one of the talent of NXT. And the text read, "Hey, I don't know if this is true or not. Canyon Ceman is coming to the building tomorrow, and you're going to get fired." So can you imagine waking up 5:30 a.m., wipe the sleep out your eyes, sipping the coffee, and you receive a text that, "Hey, on the lowdown, the kayfabe news is that they're going to come fire you today." And on one hand, it made me feel horrible. On one hand, it made me feel shocked. But on one hand, it made me feel great that I had friends, people that would look out for my back and tell me when bad news is coming down the road. So I went into that day somewhat prepared, didn't know what to expect, but I knew I needed to expect something. This was a Friday, because the big corporations always fire people on Fridays. Every day I was a coach, I would get in the ring and not necessarily go 100% wrestling against these guys, but walking through the motions, 50%, 25%, letting them feel which way their body needs to go. So I get in the ring that day to work with someone in the ring, to show them some move. And that's when Bill DeMott says, "Oh, no, get out of the ring, get out of the ring, get out of the ring." And that's the minute I knew for sure that Canyon was coming. Because why was I told to get out of the ring? And I knew exactly why. Because if I would have gotten hurt, if I would have gotten injured, if I would have caused some sort of sprain, break, fracture, then they wouldn't have been able to fire me that day. And at that minute, as I'm slowly getting out of the ring, I thought, I should have faked an injury. But as always, I was never one to ruffle feathers. So as the day progressed, I would watch Bill, and he would run to a little side door and peek out. I'm like, oh, Kanion's not here yet. They had a secretary in the front office, and I believe she came, "Oh, they want to see you back in the big coach's office room." Okay. So I'm walking in, doors open. I turn around, there's Canyon sitting there. Bill DeMott was not sitting in that room. Canyon says, "Sit down." I sit down. He's got his cell phone laying on the table. Canyon goes, "HR is on speakerphone." Canyon proceeds to lay out the fact that, "Well, we got to let you go. The thing they said, it wasn't creative, didn't have anything for you because I was a coach. It was, you're not up to the WWE standard." Wow. Shot across the bow. Now, the funny thing is there was a large number of the talent when they would say, "Hey, we got 5 coaches here. Whose class do you want to be in? A lot of them wanted to be in my class because they told me they learned the most. Guys would say, hey, I've been here 4 years and nobody's ever explained it to me like this. I want to learn from Coach Nick. They would give guys, hey, you got 90 days to come up with a good gimmick or we're going to release you. What coach do you want to help you? I want Nick to help me. So I said, Canyon, you remember in the hiring process when you sent me an email that said, if we hire Nick Dinsmore, someone told you in the office, not a coach, if we hire Nick Dinsmore, that he'll end up suing the WWE. You remember when you sent me that email? Canyon said, yes. I said, that was Mark Carrano that told you that, wasn't it? And I remember Canyon eventually began to get a little nervous. He didn't come out and say, yes, that was who it was, but he said something to the effect of, your assumptions are pretty dead on. So I laid out all my grievances about Carrano. I was angry that he tried to sexually assault my wife. Canyon Seaman sitting there. The HR lady is on speakerphone right in front of her. She heard every word of it. So I knew I could expose Mark Carrano right there to the HR. And I thought, well, what happens if they change their mind and he gets fired? Maybe I get capped, which of course didn't happen. And at that point, I feel like Canyon, and maybe the HR lady too, knew that I might have had some kind of legitimate reason to really sue the WWE. I didn't do anything rash or rude or make a scene. I simply said, well, what happens next? And Canyon goes, well, you got to go. So we all stood up from the table, turned around, they opened the door. I step out the meeting door, and standing right there was someone that I'd seen before. It was a gentleman that would often do security at the NXT live events that we had in Florida. And there he was outside the room where I got fired, standing there with a gun on his hip. And the first thing in my mind was like, you need armed security to fire me? Am I that unpredictable? Is Eugene that crazy that he's going to go nuts and, I don't know, tear up the office, start breaking stuff, that you need an armed security guard to escort me out the building? What am I going to do? I mean, honestly, I was probably one of the smaller coaches. I mean, they all could have whipped my ass. Half the talent, all the talent was bigger than me. They all could have whipped my ass. And I'm not going to make a fight. Why wouldn't I just kick Carrano's ass the first time around? Or at WrestleMania 30. And I just kind of chuckled to myself that, my God, I'm getting escorted. This was the 3rd time I'd been fired by WWE in 12 years. I walked over to my little workstation with my MacBook Pro. I tried to transfer my pictures quickly. And they're like, well, they're just going to delete all that. So I shut it down. I walked out, got in my car, drove home, and I had to tell Stephanie that, well, I got fired today. So, I mean, can you imagine someone telling you that, hey, we want you to quit your job, we want you to sell your house, we want you to move to Orlando, and we want you to be a coach for WWE. You're on a short list of one person that we wanted. And then a year later, they release you saying that you're not up to WWE standards. Put a little bad taste in my mouth. But since 2015, when I was released, I've never spoken about it until now. Because of all you great people here on Eugene Behind the Scenes. I want to thank all of you because you supported me. You're supporting me. Our numbers are growing. And it's actually relieving to actually get some of these stories off my chest and get them out there into the universe. And maybe karma has come around and Carrano has gotten what he deserves. Or maybe karma will continue to come around and Carrano will get what he really deserves. But regardless, I hold no ill will against WWE. But that time I got fired, right there when I got fired, I thought, now's the time I should sue WWE. I called some people that I really valued their opinion and spoke to them and decided it wouldn't be a good look for me to sue them because I didn't know if I could win. I didn't want to get caught up in a lawsuit. And seeing how the WWE would often just continue the lawsuit, bankroll the lawsuit until the person that's filed the lawsuit doesn't have any money left. I figured that's what was going to happen, so it really didn't seem like a winning proposition. So I simply tweeted, thank you to the WWE, thank you to NXT, thank you to the Performance Center for a great experience. And I was wished the best in my future endeavors. If you happen to miss the part 1 of this part 2, when Carrano tried to sexually assault my wife, you got to go back and watch it right here. And then if you want to hear more about the career of Eugene, check out this playlist right here.